Hello, my name is Jared Krebs. I'm pictured here with my wife Crystal and our dog Tasia. We're USANA Emerald Directors, co-founders of Team DSI. And today we have a special guest on our webinar. His name is Michael Callejas. He is a 3-star Diamond Director, $1 Million Club member, Fortune 100 member, a great friend of mine. Very proud to call him my friend. And before I introduce him, I just want to show you guys a few pictures from his Facebook page. This is Michael. He actually is based out of Los Angeles, and this is his home and his vehicles, and he's created an awesome life for himself. He's helped thousands of people over the last 10 years. And not only that, but he's done a lot also with the community. This is a picture of his team doing a Children's Hunger Fund event, helping the orphans. So he has a heart for other people. He's created a great business that spans the globe. He's still in his early 30s, and the company has even asked him to do training topics and DVDs and different things for the company. Here's a picture of him recording at the USANA home office, training the field because he's been so successful. But what I love about Michael is he's just so down to earth. He's very humble, and he's willing to help anybody with USANA. And I think that's why he's been put in such a high level of leadership. This is a picture of Michael speaking at the International Convention in front of probably close to 10,000 people. And he's just such an awesome person. I can't wait for you guys to hear his story because he's overcome a lot of challenges. And recently he visited San Antonio. Here's a picture of our group that was there. And we actually had a dinner night where we basically met at a restaurant. I think there was like 40 or 50 people there from like the associates in the local area. Michael was our guest speaker, and he did an amazing job sharing his story. We all learned so much. And I was just thinking, I want our team all over the U.S. to hear Michael's story because there's a lot of people that weren't able to hear his story that don't live locally in San Antonio. And we also had an opportunity to take Michael golfing. So this is a picture of the 4 of us that went golfing the next day, and it was just a really special time. Michael is an awesome person. He has a great story, and I'm going to go ahead and bring him on the line. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Jared.
All right. Well, thanks again for being on the webinar. We really appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. Of course, for you guys, anytime.
Awesome. And I don't hear you like totally loud, so I don't know if you're able to put the speaker a little closer to.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm actually driving. I have an event out here and just driving in LA traffic. If you guys have ever been out here, it's bumper to bumper. But every now and then you'll hear like a motorcycle pass by, so I apologize for that.
Well, you know what? We appreciate that you took time out of your busy schedule. We know you're headed to an event, and you still made this happen for us. We really appreciate it. And Michael, I just want to I guess ask you to share your story from the beginning, and even prior to USANA, what did your life look like? What were some of the challenges you were faced with? Even when you started your business, what did you have to overcome? Share with us the good, bad, and the ugly. Tell us also about your biggest successes. We want to hear everything. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to have you ask me some of those questions later if I forget, but
okay.
I'll do my best to cover a little bit about my USANA journey. But for those of you guys who don't know me, like Jared said, my name is Mike Callejas. I'm actually 33 years old. And I've been working here at USANA for about 10 years now. It's been quite an experience. Of course, a lot of people look at the success that I have today and they say, man, it must be nice, but it wasn't always like this. And, I'll take you guys back a little bit to before I got involved with this business. I actually grew up in Highland Park, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. It's not a neighborhood that you'd want to hang out in after dark. So let's just put it this way. It's a pretty rough neighborhood. And I'm not saying that it's worse than some areas that I've been to, but it's definitely not the type of neighborhood that, like I said, you can walk around at night and do stuff like that. But anyways, to make a long story very short, I was really motivated as a young man to really succeed. And I think one of the main reasons why was because I saw that money was a big problem for my family. And it's unfortunate to say, I think a lot of us get to that point where we kind of think like, man, money's the root of all evil, or money's not a good thing. But it seems like the opposite, where if you have money, you have the choices to solve some of these very, very basic problems. I can remember my parents fighting about, just bills, and then they'd be at the dinner table, kind of like that with that blank stare. And for me, I remember thinking like, when I grow up, when I'm that age, because at the time, I was a young man, but when I get to that age, I'm not going to be in that position. I said, money's never going to be a problem for me. And I'm sure people can relate to that. We always have that feeling of like, that's not going to be us. That's definitely not going to happen to me. My parents didn't take vacations. They didn't live in their dream home. They didn't do stuff like that. But my parents are really good people, very, very humble people. They have big hearts. But I thought to myself, well, I can be humble and have a big heart and have the financial success that I want. I want to have the option to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. And I just don't want to be limited. So what happened was I worked really hard in school because that was like the path. And after I graduated from college, I started focusing on work. So at 23 years old, here's the irony, okay? 23 years old, I was completely broke. Even though I said to myself that I would never be in that position, at 23 years old, I found myself completely broke. I didn't have a lot of money. I was about $50,000 in debt, had credit cards, student loans, things like that. And some people say, well, you know what, that's normal. When you get out of college, you're going to have that type of debt. And I thought to myself, okay, so this is not so bad, right? So I started working. And I was working about 73 hours a week for a plumbing electrical company. And that was my career at the time. And the reason why I was working so much was because I was in such a hurry to pay off my debt so I could actually start living my dream and building my future. So a lot of people would say, hey, take it easy, don't work so much. But for me, I thought to myself, no, this is the time I want to work. I wasn't married at the time. I didn't have any children, nothing like that. So I thought to myself, well, this is the time to work hard, right? When else would I work hard? So I got to the point where my eye kind of started twitching a little bit. I don't know if you guys ever had that feeling before, but my eye kind of jumped a little bit every now and then. And I thought to myself, man, I'm stressed out, but it's like, I have to work. I got to do this. I got to make the ends meet. And I eventually want to pay off my bills. So like I said, I can start building my future. So a friend of mine introduced me to USANA. They saw how hard I was working, and they said, come and take a look at this. Of course, I was very skeptical. I didn't really want to come and take a look at the presentation, but my friend was very persistent. And I think one of the big things that I was skeptical about is because I never heard of people making big money outside of being like a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, like things that I was familiar with. So when my friend said I'm making a lot of money, selling supplements, I thought to myself, there's no way. Like, I've never heard of anybody making a lot of money selling supplements. So I thought it was interesting. But anyways, I came to the presentation because he was persistent. I found out that USANA is publicly traded. So for me, that was a big selling point. I knew it was legitimate. And they had a solid track record. At the time, they had been around for about 15 years. So I thought to myself, okay, cool. This is a solid company, and I got involved. And usually people say, okay, that's when everything got better. And I tell people that's not the case, For me, when I got involved with USANA, that was the beginning. That was like the decision was made that I wanted to do this. And I was excited because I saw that other people had been successful building this business. The only thing is that my success didn't come right away, okay? And everybody's journey is different. So I don't want to discourage people to think that you can't be successful right away. But for me at 23, I didn't have a lot of contacts. I didn't know a lot of people. At the same time, the people that knew me didn't really think of me as a business person. They didn't think of me as a health conscious person. So I didn't have the credibility to just call my friend and say, hey, you need to sign up in this business, or hey, you need to buy this product. So it took some time. Okay, so I struggled for about a year, making a couple of $100 a year, a couple of $100 there. But I think one of the biggest turning points for me was going to international convention, which is coming up here for you guys pretty soon. So international convention, I think, was the big breakthrough moment for me. See, because up until then, I really thought that you had to be lucky and find good people. Like, I remember thinking, like, man, if I would have known someone like Jared, then I'd be successful. Or if I would have known somebody like Randy, I would have been successful. Or if I would have known somebody like some of the people that were mentioned, like, I'd be successful. But unfortunately, I don't know people like that. So I thought you just had to be lucky and find people that were good at building this business. So what was my breakthrough moment at convention? The breakthrough moment was that I saw people that crossed stage that were six-figure earners or seven-figure earners, and these people were everyday people. These were people like carpet installers. These were like managers at restaurants. Some of them were single moms. Some of them were like engineers, right? So they had good careers before USANA. So I saw people from all walks of life. And I can remember at that time, I said, wait a minute. So these people were not really good at USANA before they got started. They were just everyday people, and they got involved, and they got good at this. So what I realized in the Breakthrough Women at Convention was that you don't have to be lucky and find good people. What I realized is that good people could be created. And that's what turned my business around, and that turned my whole life around. So I hope for people that are on the line that are wondering, like, can I do this, right? I mean, that's always one of the things, like, can I actually do this? And I'm here to tell you that without a doubt, without even knowing you, that you can do this. And the reason why is because you can learn new things. So think about when you first started driving. How did you drive? I think when most people can agree that when you first start driving, everybody's a little tense, right? Everybody's kind of like, choking up on the wheel a little bit. It's kind of hard to imagine that when I first started driving, I couldn't even change the radio and drive at the same time. Or there was no way I could drive with one hand. That was unimaginable when I first started driving. I'd see my dad when he dropped us off at school, and he would drive with one hand. Sometimes he'd steer the car with one finger, and I thought to myself, is he crazy? Like, holding the steering wheel with one finger, he's going to crash at any moment. So when I first started driving, I thought to myself, that's hard. But through time, what happens is you just get comfortable. You learn the skill. You get experience and practice. Now, I do want to say this, though. Experience is a brutal teacher. So keep that in mind. There's so many people that are in this business that you can learn from, that you don't have to actually get the experience yourself, even though you do need some experience to succeed. But a lot of it can be experienced through other people. So if somebody's giving you a tip and saying, hey, I would do this and I wouldn't do that, and they have success in this business, I would definitely take notes on that. I would pay attention. So my first year, I tried to figure it all myself, right? I'd always be the guy that said, like, yeah, I know. And people say, hey, Mike, this is the way you want to talk to people. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, yeah, I know my friends. I know this, I know that. It seems like I knew everything. And I remember one of my mentors asked me, Mike, do you know that you're making no money? And I go, I know, right? So it's kind of like I knew everything, but I was making nothing. So I want you guys to understand that sometimes you have to know that you don't know, right? Because the question is this: if you could have everything that you wanted, being the way you are and knowing what you know, then why don't you already have the results? See, that's a good question to ask yourself. Like, if I could have everything that I wanted being exactly the way I am, why don't I already have it? And a lot of times people would say, well, because this or because that, right? But really, if you're a person that can grow in this business, then you can overcome almost any obstacle. Okay, so I want to make sure you guys know that it's not about being lucky. It's not about just finding good people. It's about creating good people. So with that in mind, I actually became, and I know Jared kind of talked about it, showed you guys some pictures. I can't see what he's showing you guys, but I was actually able to become a millionaire by the time I was 29. And I think that was a big thing, and in my neighborhood, like, that was huge. People got word of that. They're like, oh my gosh, Mike's successful, he's made it. And I still tell people, like, I don't feel like I've made it yet. I feel like I'm just getting started, because I just feel like there's so much more to grow and there's so many more people to help. But it's been a crazy journey. As far as some of the things that I wanted to do when I first got involved, like, I can remember thinking to myself, like, man, it'd be nice to travel. Traveling is always something that's kind of called my name. And I think traveling, for some people, everybody likes it for different reasons. But for some people who have never traveled, I think they don't have perspective. Because, a lot of people will complain about, the United States or whatever, but if you travel to other countries, like, you can see how good it is and how different it is, and et cetera. But for me, like, I really, really love traveling and getting that global perspective. It's awesome. Like, seeing things for yourself. Like, I'll give you guys an example. Like, one of the places that I went to visit was Egypt. And when I had told people, like, hey, I'm going to go to Egypt, everybody's like, oh, be careful, it's dangerous, you're going to die and this and that. And I'm just like, what? Like, why would you say that, People were watching things on the news, et cetera. Well, I went to Egypt, and it was, like, one of the coolest places I've ever been to. It was totally safe. And I just want you guys to know, like, without getting out there and experiencing something yourself, you're not going to know. So it's kind of like USANA, right? A lot of people will usually say, like, do this or don't do that, right? Or don't do USANA, that's not going to work. And then you'd ask them, like, have you tried this? Have you worked it? And if they say no, it's like, well, then how would you know, right? They don't have that experience. So one of the tools that that really helped me when I was first starting in this business was this video called Brilliant Compensation, and it had mentioned how there were 3 types of opinions in this business. The first one was from people who have done it and succeeded. The second one was for people who have never done it, and the third one was for people who have done it and failed. And it talked about how which type of opinion would you take as a credible opinion or as a credible source? Would it be from somebody who has done it and succeeded, somebody who has done it and failed, or somebody who has never done it? See, most times, people take advice from people who have done it and failed, or people who have never done it. Because if you're taking advice from people who have done it and succeeded, they're going to guide you in the right direction. So that's another tip that I want to give you guys, and that kind of ties into my story. Like, the first year, I can remember, like, I wasn't taking all those tips. But the second year in my business, like, I was totally finding the most successful people in my circle. And if I didn't know them, like, I'd reach out to them and I'd make friends with them because I knew that I wanted to surround myself with people that had the results that I was looking for. So getting opinions and getting perspective from people who have done it and succeeded and people who can really share that with you. So for me, my goal now is not really to impress people. And, you know, I know that I'm talking a lot on this call, but it's not really to impress people, but to inspire them for whatever it is that they want to reach. You know, I do feel that USANA is the right vehicle. I feel that it is the right vehicle for people to be successful, because I think that ultimately, what does USANA provide? You know, it provides health, it provides finances, and it provides time freedom or leverage, right? And whenever I think about the biggest challenges in the world, it usually revolves around time, money, and health. So I do feel that USANA is a great vehicle of choice. So what do you have to do to become successful here at USANA? Well, you got to put in some work, you know. I think for me, in the very beginning, I had goals. You know, I had goals, and I pushed towards those goals. But here's another thing. I knew the goals of my team. So sometimes when we have our own goals, right, we can give up on them. But if you know the goals of your organization, like, you're going to push not just for yours, but for theirs too. So I want to make sure you guys encourage you guys to do that. Like, know the goals of your organization. Like, what are people after? And for me, that's what keeps me going now. Like, it's really about helping people reach whatever it is that they want to reach in this business. So hopefully that kind of answers some of those questions. Jared, I don't know if you want to ask something else or if I left something out, but I'll go ahead and turn it back to you, and I don't know if you want to ask any questions.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Michael, first of all, thank you so much for all these great golden nuggets. I've been taking notes. Actually, I love what you had to say about the 3 opinions. You know, listening to people who've done it and succeeded, or people who've never done it or done it and failed, because how often does that happen to our prospects or our new associates when they first sign up and they get those feedback from those people who've never done it or done it and failed?
Exactly.
And yeah, I love that. And I also love if you could have everything you wanted being the way you are, why don't you already have it?
Correct.
Because it's so true. You know, it's like, this business has helped us both grow so much, and it just seems like a never ending growth process. But that's really what it comes down to. And that just encourages us all to grow. So,
Right.
thank you for sharing all that. I wanted to also ask, could you just explain a little bit about what your life is like today, now that you're established with USANA, and maybe some of the differences that, obviously there's differences financially, but just, can you share with us what your life is like today a little bit?
Yeah. As you know, without like I said, I don't like to brag too much about what I have, but here's an interesting thing. Okay, so I have a house out in Diamond California. So it's a 5-bedroom house, 4 bathrooms. You know, about 3,500 square feet. It's a nice home. And here's an example of what money can do. Okay, so when I first bought my house, I can remember that I bought it because I thought, okay, well, one day I'm gonna have a family, right? So I had this big house, and when I came home that first night, like, this is after I bought my house, I came home and I was literally, like, afraid to go inside because it's completely empty. Like, there's nobody in there. There's nothing in there. So I started buying some furniture, right, furnishing my home. So long story short, I had my home and I was just living by myself. But I got phone calls from people like over time. Like one of my buddies was like, hey, you know what? I need a place to stay. Can I crash at your place for a while? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. Anyways, 3 years later, like he was still living there. So it was interesting because I don't mind helping people out, but I noticed this. Like a lot of times people say, well, money's not important, but how can I provide that help for some of my friends who desperately needed it at certain times for whatever reason if I didn't have resources? So I want to make sure that people understand that money is just a unit of choices, right? The more money you have, it's like the more choices you have. So I had one of my buddies living at my place. And then another friend called, right? Like he had been in a bad breakup with his fiance. And he's like, hey, can I stay at your place? So I'm like, sure. So I had people kind of living at my house, and I felt like it was like Forrest Gump's home, no joke. Like I had so many people coming through. But it was okay. Like that filled me up. Like I loved having people over. I loved sharing what I had with other people. So that was really interesting. Just kind of having people stay at my house and spending time with them, breaking bread with them, building relationships with them. And it's really interesting, just having people over. That was a really cool thing. Next is, of course, as far as like transportation goes, like when I first got started, I remember I drove a 1988 Mitsubishi Galant. Okay, I don't know if anybody knows what kind of car that is, but it's, and I don't want to sound ungrateful or anything, but it was a car that I worked hard for. I used to flip burgers at McDonald's when I was 16, and I saved enough money to buy this car. So it was, it was a big goal. But when I was 23 years old, I still had the same car. It's always breaking down. You know what I mean? Like, just here's something interesting. Driving your car and knowing exactly how much mileage you get on a tank of gas. Like, I can remember doing that. Like, just driving around, and, like, the light would turn on, and people would be like, hey, pull over, like, you're running out of gas. And I'm like, no, I have, like, 6 miles left. Don't worry. Like, like, it's just that type of lifestyle is a thing of the past. Like, now I don't have to worry about filling up my gas tank. And I know that may not sound like a big deal for some of you guys, but for me, it's like it is. Like, those are the things that I was really, really grateful for after I started succeeding in this business. Or even going out to a restaurant. Like I'd go out to a restaurant and I would look at the menu and I would order based on how much the food costs. I'd look at the menu and be like, oh man, that's $30. Oh, that's too much. I can't order that. That's like 2 hours of work right there. That's like 3 hours of today's paycheck. It's like making decisions like that. Like, I don't want to make decisions based on costs. And I know a lot of people make decisions like that. I always think it's important to ask yourself, what is it that you want? Now, some people don't want like a BMW i8 or a GTR or an R8 or anything crazy like that. Like I've had some of these cars, right? Some people don't want that stuff. But if you do, though, then I think that you should be able to have it. Like, why not? Like, why shrink your dreams down to match your income? I just don't that doesn't make sense to me anymore. So when you look at lifestyle, like I think my lifestyle is whatever it is that my dreams are, I bring my income up to match my dream versus bringing my dream down to match my income. It's like I want people to kind of live their life like that. I went out with some friends yesterday, and we're all watching like the soccer game and the Stanley Cup final at my place. And, people are getting kind of hungry, so I ordered Chinese, okay? There's a really good Chinese restaurant here by my house in Chinatown. Anyways, so I ordered Chinese food, right? And nobody wanted to leave the house because people were like, no, we can't leave. The game's on, Nobody wanted to go pick it up. So I was like, oh, let's just call Postmate, So anyways, Postmate is this little app that delivers, okay? So you just call them up and you order your food and they'll pick it up and they'll bring it to you. So here's what happened. I ordered through Postmate, but they don't tell you how much it is until the end. So one of my friends that I hadn't seen in a while, she goes, well, how much is it? I said, I don't know. And then she goes, oh my God, like, how could you order without knowing how much it costs? I said, like, do you see what I mean? Like, she was so concerned about how much it was. And I told her, like, hey, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it, Like, don't worry about it. I got it. And anyways, so we had this guy deliver it. Interesting thing, I got a prospect out of it because the guy was cool. He came over to my place. We started chatting. So I made a prospect out of it. So practicing my my 2-2-1, right?
Yes.
But the point is that, see, like not having to worry about something like that. And there's so many people that I know that they just won't do things because they pretend like money's got the, like, they can't get over the financial hump. Like, a lot of people say money's not important, but it is, because it really limits them to the types of things that they can do. Like, I'll give you one last example. So next month I'm gonna go to I do about 6 to 12 countries a year. So the reason why it's like 6 to 12 is because sometimes, like, when you go to a country that's so close to other countries, you can visit more, right? But anyways, this year, so I'm gonna be going to Colombia next month. I've been to Colombia several times, but I love it there. And after that, I'm gonna go to Greece, Malta, Croatia, Bosnia, and Albania. Okay, and then I'll be coming home. So I'm gonna be gone for about a month. I've invited almost everyone that I know, like really close friends. There's not one person that can come with me. So as far as lifestyle is concerned, it's like, it's cool, it's great, but I'm so encouraged to help people reach because everybody would like to go. Like, when I asked them, I was like, hey, let's go on this like trip, right? Let's go to all these countries. Come on. They're like, oh, I would love to. And I'm like, why don't you come? I don't have the money. It's always the money. Or they say, I don't have time. I can't take time off of work. Then it's a time issue. So I just want you guys to understand that the lifestyle now, I don't want to have a limited lifestyle. Or here's the last thing I'll share with you, Jared, is most people act as in they do right? So, like, for example, like, okay, I'm going to go to Spain this year, or I'm going to go to China this year. I have to pick one. I can't do both. See, so they have an or philosophy. Like, I want people to be encouraged to think in an and philosophy. You know? Like, why can't you do Spain and China? What's holding you back from doing and? Like, do you want to do both? And I say, yeah, I want to do both. Then why not do both? See, it's like having an and philosophy. Or I hear this one all the time. You know, I have a BMW i8. That's what I'm driving right now. And when I pull up at a gas station, like, I'll open my door and it goes up. Like, if you guys check out this car, it's freaking crazy. But anyways, the doors go up, and this is like a $160,000 car. So when I get out of my car, like, people will always be like, oh, hey, that's a cool car. They'll, like, take a picture of it. And I'm like, oh, jump in, and I'll take a picture of you. So I'll let people sit in it, or whatever. You know, it's like whatever it is to inspire someone. But people will always ask me, like, man, like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, oh, I own my own business, or I do network marketing. And they're like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, do you like it? They're like, yeah, I really like this car. And I'm like, well, would you get one of these? They're like, well, yeah, I would get one of these, but I have kids. Like, I'll always hear that. Like, I would get this, but I have kids. And I'm just like, well, what does your kid have to do with it? They're like, well, no, I'm not going to get this because I have kids. So the point I'm trying to make is people will kind of use, like, a kid as the reason why they won't do it. Well, why can't they make more? Makes sense? Like, why not just build your income? Like, if you want to have a kid and you want to have this, like, why can't you have both? You know what I mean? Like, people start living their life like they have to choose. Like, there's scarcity out there. Like, there's a limited amount that you can make. What's great about USANA is that it's unlimited. As much as you want, and you can leverage your time as much as you want. So hopefully that kind of explains a little bit, Jared, versus giving you, like, very specifics. I want to give you guys the concept of living your life in and versus or.
Oh yes, I got 5 pages of notes right here. I've been writing everything down. It's great. I really like how you talked about 6 to 12 countries a year. That's real inspiring. Crystal's over here looking at me now.
Hey,
And
well, I can't wait to have you guys out here so you guys can see what it's like. It's very interesting life here.
yes, we can't wait. And just so you know, team, actually, Michael has invited me and Crystal out to LA in July for Crystal's birthday weekend. So we're going to go hang out with Michael, and I'm sure we're going to learn a ton and can't wait to be there. So thanks again, Michael, for opening your home to us.
Thank you.
No worries. It's going to be a pleasure having you guys here.
Hey, hello?
Lead, you have the floor, my friend.
Cool, got it. Cool. Hey, Mike. My question is, I know you mentioned earlier that a big moment for you was when you went to convention the first time. That was a big change. Do you have, like, another, like, big aha moment, or like how Eric Worre says, like, a defining moment that really made, like, a huge impact in your business?
Yes, there's a bunch of those. I can give you another one. Like, right when you asked this is the one that stands out the most. So I do a lot of reading and listening to audios. I'll be honest though, when I first started, I read a lot more as far as books for network marketing, and I just got back into reading recently. But when I was new, I used to listen to personal development, read books, watch videos, like pretty much all the time. And I can remember reading this book, Your First Year in Network Marketing, by Mark and Rini Reed Yarnell. So one of the turning points for me was in the first couple of pages of the book. If you read it, it talks about how people that survive in network marketing for more than 10 years, statistically over 90% of them will be successful. I mean, they'll be rich beyond their wildest imagination. That's what it says in the book. Okay, so imagine when you're brand new, right? You're reading this book and you're like, oh my God, like 90%, those are pretty good odds. So in my mind, I thought to myself, okay, if I just stick with it, right? If I just hang in there, it's going to work out. But I don't mean just existing, like, because some people have existed in USANA for more than 10 years and they haven't reached that level. I'm not talking about existing in USANA. I'm talking about really working it. You know, like doing your weekly presentations, doing your 221, you know, doing all of that, everything that Jared talked about. So this is what happened. This is the turning point. So I don't want to give you the whole, I want you to really understand this because it's important. So once I knew that I was going to be successful, then the fear was gone. Okay, as far as like the doubt. So let me explain to you how this goes. I'll give you a parallel for this. And I heard this pastor give this example once, and I love it because I use it for my business. But think of it this way. Like, let's say you're watching the basketball game. Okay, the Spurs are on, right? And you're watching the Spurs, and you're really excited. Okay, and it's going to go to Game 7. Okay, so it's the NBA final, right? Game 7. It's going to happen tomorrow. So tomorrow rolls around. And you're like, okay, I'm going to watch the game. But let's just say you have a health and freedom to do that day. So you can't watch the game. So you record it. Like you get your DVR, your TiVo, whatever it is, and you're recording the game. So if you're recording the game, it's always a bummer when you're recording the game and somebody calls you and tells you the score. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's I'm trying to paint a picture here for you. Let's see if this makes sense. So let's say that you're recording the game and I call you up and I'm like, hey dude, you're not gonna believe it, man. The freaking Spurs won. And you're like, oh man, what the heck's going on? Like, why'd you tell me? Like I was recording the game, I was gonna come home and watch it. And I tell you, yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, the Spurs won. Game 7, they're the NBA champions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Would you still watch the game when you get home? That's the question. Like, when you get home, are you still going to watch the game? And in most cases, I think people would still watch the game because their team won, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always good to see it when your team wins. Like, if you're watching ESPN, like, I don't know if you're like me, but if the LA Kings win, I watch ESPN. Even though I saw the game, I was at the game, I still want to watch the highlights so I could see how cool they looked, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, if you recorded it, I told you the score, you still want to come home and watch the game. Now, if they lost, would you want to watch the game?
Not really. It makes you mad.
So, see, if they lost, you're going to be like, oh, dude, I don't want to watch it. It's like, I already know they lost. Like, it's just discouraging. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to watch this game. All right. So now you get the picture. Okay, so you get the I created a little scenario for everybody to play along with this scenario, this story that I'm telling. So here's the point. Let's just say that in the third quarter, the Spurs are down by 40. Okay? Now, remember, I told you the Spurs won. Okay, the game was recorded, but I told you the score. So you're watching it at home, and the Spurs are down by 40. Okay, 40 points. That's a pretty big margin, right, in basketball? In the third quarter. All right, They go into the fourth quarter. They're down by 25, and there's only 3 minutes to go. My question is this. Would you be discouraged or would you be worried when they were down 25 with 3 minutes to go?
No, I'd actually be kind of excited because I was like, dang, how are they going to pull this off? It's pretty exciting because I know they're going to win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about USANA. Once I knew that we were going to win, I wasn't discouraged anymore. I wasn't negative anymore. Like, even though it was kind of like I felt a little, maybe, like, let's say that you saw the Spurs, like, messing up and they turned over the ball, you'd be like, but it's okay. They're going to win anyways.
Yeah.
I want you guys to understand that was one of the biggest turning points for me, was when I realized that it was only a matter of time and that I was going to succeed, and it was only a matter of time. So I hope that story made sense and that I've answered your question, because I think once a person sees it, it's very difficult to unsee it, if that makes sense. Like, once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. And that's what happened to me when I read the book. I finally saw it. I knew that I was going to succeed. Even though I was broke and my team, was signing up and some of them were quitting and people were complaining and all of that, all the adversities, all the challenges, it didn't matter, because I already knew in the end. I already knew the score at the end of the game. At the end of the game, we win.
Dang.
So hopefully
that
that
was
helps
great.
by answering your question.
Oh, it helped tremendously. I didn't know that statistic. That's life-changing.
It's true. It just ask anybody who's really been building this business for more than 10 years, like nonstop though. Like, they're doing their 2-2-1.
Yeah.
They're doing the work. Like, I haven't met one person that does it diligently that hasn't succeeded. And I don't mean just like barely making it. I mean really, really succeeding. The problem is that people get discouraged in the process. And when they get discouraged in the process, they stop. So if you stop for 2 years and then come back, you can't say that you've been doing it. Let's say you started 2 years and you stopped 2 years. You can't say I've been doing this 4 years. It doesn't apply.
Yeah, makes sense. Total sense.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. All right, next question is from Liz Spade. She's not able to be on the line, but she texted me your question. She's one of our best team members. She's actually in Chicago. And she said, can you ask Michael, when he went out to prospect, when he was working full-time as an electrician, what did his schedule look like?
Okay. You're taking me back here. So I used to work, I tell people in my story that I worked 73 hours a week. And this is a true story. Like, it's not an exaggeration. So I would work from 8 in the morning until 10 at night. And now when I think about it, I don't know how I did it, to be honest. I think it was just because I felt like I had to do whatever it took, But I worked from 8 a.m., so I'd get up at about 6 or 7, shower up real quick, go to work, clock in at 8, fight a little bit of traffic in LA, so sometimes I have to leave right at 7 to make it by 8. I'd have 2 breaks, and then I'd have a lunch break. So during my 2 breaks, like, I'd make phone calls or I'd send text messages. Now, keep in mind, back then we didn't have Facebook. Like, back then I think it was Friendster and MySpace. That's what was going on. Okay, MySpace is gone now. But I would send messages to people on MySpace or Friendster, text messages, make some phone calls, and I would talk to people at work. And I know that it's not always a good idea to talk about your business at work because, you don't want to get in trouble or anything like that. And I did get in trouble a couple of times. But what I would do is I wouldn't just talk about USANA, but I would talk about success. I would talk about what I was after, if that makes sense. So prospecting to me is never about the vehicle. It's always about the destination. So if you spend time with me, you'll notice that I talk very little about USANA itself, but more so about where I'm trying to get. And the reason why you want to talk about the destination and not the vehicle is because the destination is what's exciting, not the vehicle. Like, I'll give you an example. I told you guys a moment ago that I was going to go to Greece, I was going to go to Malta, I was going to go to Croatia, and I was going to go to Bosnia, right? That's the destination, right? That's where I'm going, okay? There's some amazing beaches in Malta and Croatia. I'm going to be in Greece, Athens. Okay? I'm going to see some cool stuff. That's the destination. So when people ask me, what are you doing next month? I'm going to say, like, dude, I'm going to go to exactly what I just said. I'm going to all these places. What I'm not going to say is, what are you doing next month? Well, I'm going to sit in an airplane for 10 hours, hopefully on an aisle seat or a window, and not in between two heavy-set dudes. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and I'm going to eat this lousy dinner, you know? Like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to talk about the vehicle and how I'm going to get there. Who cares? What I'm going to talk about is where I'm going and what's happening when I get there. So I hope that that's helpful for the young lady to ask the question, because prospecting to me is fun when I talk about where we're going. So don't talk about USANA so much as far as, you know, let's talk about, like, hey, I want to talk to USANA. It's this company. It's publicly traded. They make pharmaceutical grade nutritionals and blah, blah, blah. Right? Like, it's, you don't want to spend your time doing all of that, but you want to spend your time saying, you know, back then I would say, dude, I can't wait until I don't have to freaking work 73 hours a week anymore. I'm sick of it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but, like, I can't wait until I'm making so much where I can just pay my bills in 1 month. Like, I usually make minimum payments on my credit cards, but if things go well with my business project, I can't wait until it's paid off in 1 month. That's what I'm looking forward to. I can't wait until I have the decision to come into work, or if I just want to leave, I don't have to call my boss and ask for the time off. I'm tired of asking for raises here, aren't you? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
I talk about the destination. That's prospecting. Even yesterday, like I was prospecting yesterday, like all day. And the reason why is because I invited friends over to watch the game. I invited a friend to go to church with me. She invited her sister later on to come and have dinner with us. We had coffee. Then we watched the hockey game. Then we went to a jazz bar at night, and they brought more friends. But anyways, the whole time, I'm talking about the destination because it's Sunday, right? So everybody's like, hey, we got to get home because we got to go to work tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, man. I said, I can't wait until you see the value in entrepreneurship so that you don't have to go to work at 8 in the morning anymore. Like, you're worth more than that. Your time is worth more than that. You're so valuable. You're so smart. Like, I can't wait till you see it. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
I'm talking about the destination. I keep talking about it. And even some of them were USANA associates, and I'm like, oh, man, I can't wait until your business catches fire, and we can just stay out as long as we want because there's no work tomorrow.
I love it.
I want to make sure you guys understand that. Like, always talk about the destination, not the vehicle. Sorry if I rambled on a little bit, but I want to make that strong point that's what makes this business fun when we talk about that.
No, I think that was beautiful, and that's what Liz needed to hear as well, because she's working those types of hours and she's balancing that type of a schedule. So it's why she asked. So yeah, you definitely answered it and also gave a great tip on talking about the destination. So thank you. And we have 2 more questions, if that's okay. We have Viola Krebs. Okay, awesome. All right, so this is my mom, Viola Krebs, Executive Gold Director from Salt Lake City.
Hi, Michael. I really like.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. I really have enjoyed your training with us. My question to you is: I heard that you're writing a book. Your ego is not your amigo, and I am really excited for your book to come out because I think you're such a fun trainer. Like you tell stories, and I can hardly wait to read your book. Do you have some kind of a timeline for your book to come out?
So the goal is definitely by the end of this year now, because initially I had a lot to write and I was really excited and I thought, okay, I'm going to get this done. I know exactly what I want to say. But what I've learned, and this has been a humbling experience, but the way you talk and the way you write isn't the same. So like, I can speak in front of a crowd, but like when I'm trying to put it on paper, the person who's helping me write the book is one of my best friends from high school. Her name is Marisol Garibay, and she's worked for the Financial Services Committee on Capitol Hill. She's a journalist, and you know, she's a great writer, and she knows me really well. That's why I wanted somebody who really knew me to help me write this book. But yeah, it's been a process, and at the same time, like there's so many like new aha moments that I always keep going back and saying, oh, let's change this, let's change that. But I would say by the end of this year, that's the timeline.
Okay, cool.
By December 31st, 2016.
Yay! I can hardly wait. I'm getting your book.
Thank you. Thank you. That encourages me, just so you know. Those types of comments encourage me to get it done, for sure. But I am excited, and we've changed the title, so it's not your ego is not your amigo. It's my ego is not my amigo. So it's just my versus yours.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. I like that. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and it's going to be awesome. So thank you.
Yes, we'll be. You're gonna have, I'm sure, a lot of pre-orders.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So, last question goes to Rene Martinez, who recently advanced to director, and very, very proud of him. He's got a great team that he's building out in Pleasanton, Texas, which is about an hour south from San Antonio. He was actually at your event, Michael, that you did here. And Dad, could you unmute Rene?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey, Michael. How's it?
It's going well, sir.
How's it? Okay. My question is, I went to Las Vegas and I heard you speak over there and saw all that. My question is, I haven't actually been to the Utah event, the international convention. What exactly was your what exactly was your aha moment when you were there?
Okay, I kind of mentioned it a little bit. I'll reiterate. So for me, I always thought that you had to find good people, and that was the way you made it. But what happened at international convention was I realized that you could actually you can create good people in this business. So that was the big aha moment for me, right? Because it's frustrating, right? Like when you think about, well, not for you, but for me, like I would think about the people that I knew, and I'm like, ugh, like my friends are so lame, you know? Like they're not going to do well at this. Or my friends are broke, like they don't have any money. Or my friends are not health conscious, whatever it was. And then I would always be drooling over everybody else's prospects. You know, I'd be like, oh man, I wish that was my prospect. That guy's so good, or that girl is so good at this. So I think the big turning point for me was just realizing that a lot of the leaders that are in this business, like even top income earners, they didn't start off great. Like a lot of people just got started and they were just everyday people, and they eventually turned it around and made it happen. So I felt that if people could do it, if people could be creative, then I had hope. I had hope for my friends. I had hope for my shy friends. I had hope for like my lazy friends and my negative friends. Like I had hope for everybody because I felt that people could change. So that was a big turning point. I don't know if I can elaborate more on that. It's just the idea that people could change and the idea that people could get better. That was a total game changer for me.
I just unmuted Rene again. You're unmuted,
Awesome,
Rene.
awesome. Thank you for the insight of that, and I totally understand what you're talking about.
For sure. And you're gonna go to convention and you're gonna see people that are like you. You're gonna see someone. It's gonna happen. You're gonna run into someone that you're gonna say, like, I don't know why we do this, and I know I'm speaking for people. I'm generalizing a lot, but like I always see it happening. You know, where even for me, like where you see someone and you go, okay, like you size yourself up a little bit, and you're like, you know, I'm kind of like that person, or that person is kind of like me, and if they can do it, then I can do it, and you know what I mean, like. It's just that's what's part of it. It's something about it. It's validating when you can see that someone that you feel like you're like has done it. It just opens up. It opens up so much possibility for you. So I hope that you have that experience at convention. I really do.
There you go. You're unmuted.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you over there again. And I would just like to, on behalf of Team DSI South, thank you so much, Bernard. And you're very, very inspiring. I know me and about 5 of my teammates were in San Antonio at your event, and really got into the heads of a couple. And I appreciate everything that you do, especially for our team.
Oh. No worries, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.